Hello everyone, welcome back to Workplace Wizards. Today we're going to be continuing on with the Food Labor Inventory Management System, otherwise known as FILMS. Alright, so let's carry on with part number 9, which is going to be the Employee Information Labor Tutorial. Alright, so just so you know what you're looking at right here is the home page for the whole system. Typically, you would normally access the system through the tabs that you see here at the below. The system is so large that I've eliminated that option and created a home page and actually put in columns or what the columns are. It's a little easier. Actually, it's a lot easier than trying to access through the tabs. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the food, or rather the employee information sheet real quick. When you do this, just keep in mind this is a key sheet. You enter the employee information ID, employee ID. You can use the last four letters of the last name, Shim dash 001. You can do 001, any method that you feel comfortable with. Fill out the employee name, whether or not they're active or inactive. Make sure you assign a position. The system will not work properly if you don't put a position for a certain employee. Hit the drop down box, and then you're going to scroll up and down until you find the right position that you're looking for. Put a pay rate in. If it's salary, $500, $1,000, whatever that might be, make sure you hit the drop down box, hit hourly, salary. Again, uh, the system will not work properly unless you mark that employee's salary or if that employee is hourly, in which in this case the bottom one that we're looking at right now is hourly. All right, you got the hire date, date of birth, social security number, home phone, cell. Let's see here, employee address, employee email, minors. Make sure that you fill out the minor permit and that you retain a copy of the permit in the employee file. Uh, the original goes back to the employee itself. So you can't really start anybody until you have this information here. Check your local state to see what their requirements are. W-4 completed. Only check this box off once the W-4 is completed. Marital status, I hit the drop-down box. Single, married, married, and single rate. W-2, W-4 allowance, if it's 2, 3, 4, etc. If you want additional taxes taken out of your W-4, go ahead and put it in there. If you're exempt, check the box. Probably won't be. I-9, make sure that you're filling out the I-9 number 1 and number 2. Only check this off once it's completed and it's in the employee file. Now, just so you know, you can be audited if you do not have a W-4 and I-9 in the file by the state or the government. And you can be penalized and actually fined if you don't have it. All right, so be safe and make sure that every employee gets an I-9 W-4. There's a link right up here. I-9, it'll give you the most recent form. Same thing with a W-4. It'll give you the most recent form, 2016. Make sure everybody has it. This last bit of information right here is you're going to put the schedule availability, comments, or additional information. For example, request off on Mondays, vacation on 12/19/2016 through 2016, 12/26/16. The scheduling manager, whoever makes the schedules out, should revert back to this area and double check to make sure that they're not scheduling somebody that has already requested off. So make sure you train whoever's doing the scheduling to make a habit of coming to this section right here. All right, so, and then then this section right here, that you're looking right here is for regular employees. Down below area management. Make sure that you separate them out because when we figure out the labor cost percentage, it's going to be based on management only, which is about 10% of your sales. And then you come up here, and then you got your labor percent for your employees. All right, so let's go ahead and get out of this section real quick. I got it right here. A little bit of information, employees with multiple positions. Read it. It tells you how to do that. A little bit of information right here. Uh, Highly recommend reading what you can in this system. There's a lot of helpful stuff that you can actually learn. And if you're a seasoned employee or manager, you may already know some of the stuff. But again, you may not. Information is key. Let's go back. Let's talk about the schedulers. You got a little bit of information on how the scheduler works. You got a front of the house scheduler, back of the house scheduler, manager scheduler. Front of the house scheduler, when you enter the information onto the information sheet, it automatically populates the name and the position. So you never have to fill out this position. The only thing you got to do is print the sheet out. And when you print the sheet out, it will not include the regular hours, OT hours, nothing. It'll only include when you print it is from this area here all the way up to Sunday and down. All right, and there's a separate section. There's a separate one for managers as well. How to input the time? Simple. If you're doing let's for example 12 o'clock, 12 space P. Let's do a 12 space A. So that's 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. 12 hours over here, 0 overtime. Over here, we're going to go ahead and put a 24 hours so I can show you something here. 12P, 12P. All right. Okay, so it's not taking that. So forget the 24 hours then. I'll have to fix this formula. But anyway, let's put 11 p.m. 11p. I'll take that. Whoops. And that's what happens when you don't enter it correctly. So 11p and enter. Okay, so here we go. So now you got 23 hours. We're going to go ahead and copy some over so I can show you what's going to happen if they go into overtime. Control C, Control V. There are 34 hours. Let's add one more. We're now at 5 hours overtime. This is just a heads up that you scheduled somebody 5 hours in overtime. Usually if that happens, most restaurants don't like to schedule people into OT. So that means that you're going to have to kind of divvy out some hours here or reduce these hours here and add a little hours to someone else so it kind of balances out and you stay out of the OT. All right. So again, when you print out the sheet, you're going to post it. So make out your schedule, right? And then you're going to print it up. And once you print it out, again, it's not going to include this area here. It'll only include from week beginning all the way down to Sunday and down. A little bit of information up here. You can gain the instructions manual in case you don't fully understand. Click this, it'll take you there. How to print the schedules, employees multiple positions. All right, so and this is going to be the same for the managers and for the back of the house. All right, so let's go ahead and skip the managers back of the house. Let's get to the schedule request off. This is a printable form. You got to print it, and then you put the employee's name when you request off. Keep this in the office, or maybe put it in a binder and keep it up front. Just make sure that you or someone else is going to be in charge, a supervisor or manager or lead person. Name, request off date, request reason, reason approved or disapproved, reason why it's not approved, manager's signature, and the GM signature. And make sure that if it's not approved, you tell that employee. Otherwise, you'll have a little surprise, and they may not show up for work thinking they got approved. So when they request off, it needs to be approved. You need to let them know that. So do this at the orientation. All right. So we got time cards. Same thing here. It's one for managers, one for employees. Make sure you put the date. This time card right here is good for every week. So you print it, you fill it out, you handwrite. You can handwrite the stuff in. They came in at 12, left at 8. Maybe you gave them a 1 hour break, right? You know, there's a reason why you're going to be printing this out. So you get, let's say it's now Friday, Sunday, and you got all these members in here. Once we input it in the system, you're going to take this piece of paper, start a file, keep it in your office, and use it for reference, just in case you need it from future reference in case of an unemployment claim or something in regards like that. And just make sure you fill out the date. So we'll get back to why you're going to be using this. So you have all your in and out times, right, all throughout the week. What I would recommend is, like for instance, on Monday, you're going to have this whole section filled out, all the way from top to bottom. Maybe you got 50 employees, maybe you got 20 clients here. You can do this per shift. I would recommend probably per shift. So if the AM manager, before they're done, they're gonna take their sheet and they're gonna go back into, for instance, under week 1 labor hours, right here, and they're gonna input the time. All right. So in this case, like I said before, in order to put this correctly, you're gonna put 12 skip P, and if they're working until 8 p.m., you're gonna put 12 skip. We're gonna back that out. 8p, and it's going to say 8 p.m. It'll give you your hours, daily regular hours, and no OT. If you're going to give a break, give a break, 0.5, it'll deduct 750. If it's one break, give one. Get in the habit of giving people breaks because this will reduce the amount of labor dollars that you spend. So typically, a lot of restaurants do like giving breaks, and it's a way to control your labor. If you're a server, you need to make sure that you're having your servers declare the tips every day. For instance, in the state of Pennsylvania, server tips are $2.83, 84 cents, and that's the server wage, by the way. So every day when that server is done, uh, they should tell you what their tips declared are so that it can be entered into the system because it's going to be different. If the server made enough tips for the day and it's over the threshold, then you're going to end up paying that server the 283 an hour. If they did not make enough tips for the day and they did not hit the threshold, then what's going to happen is that you're going to end up paying the server the $7.25 or whatever the minimum wage is. If it's going into overtime with a 725, it's going to be 725 times 1.5, which is the overtime rate right up here, and that'll go into the overtime hours. All right, so and PTO, just so you know what PTO is, paid time off, it is not included into these hours. It's totally separate. So, for instance, if you have a holiday pay, bereavement, jury duty, any of these things that may apply. So let's say it's Christmas, it's holiday, and you want to add 8 hours into it, add 8 hours into it. It's going to be paid at straight time. It's not going to include into these hours right here because this is just regular time. If we scroll all the way down to the week to date, you have a PTO area. It's going to tell you exactly how much the person is going to get paid. And then this right here is the weekly total with PTO. So it's going to add up the 500 for the salary for the manager. Um, and it's going to include all the way into include the manager and the PTO right here. This right here is going to be the 500 divided by 40 hours, and it's going to come up with a rate of 192 even. All right, so that's just for extra hours. You can use this PTO just for about anything. Um, you can do scroll up a little bit. Additional pay. Let's say you had a contest for an employee, or maybe an employee, if it's a kitchen person, and the third shift called out because it's a closing shift, and somebody volunteered to do that, and you said, "Well, I'm going to give you a couple more hours just for helping me out." Then you can just go ahead and hit additional pay, and then maybe pay more than 2, 3 hours extra. But that would be straight time. So everything in this thing is straight time, just so you know. All right, so you know what PTO means. Let's go ahead and back that out, back that out. Um, Salary, you got to make sure you're putting that in. If it's salary, it's $500. Uh, some restaurants want to keep a tab on the in and out times for managers to see if they're actually working their hours. But if you scroll way down here, it's going to have the weekly pay 500 for salary, and then there's no overtime, and then the weekly gross is 500, and again the PTO 96, so it's giving out 596. All right, that's for salary. By the way, we devised a system so that you can scroll back and forth so you don't lose your place. And if you go up and down, same thing. It'll scroll up and down. Now you have over 100 slots for employees, and this is basically designed for restaurants up to 100. But if you have 20, it'll be useful. There's your manager section. Same thing for the managers. And the same scenario, this information populates with employee information sheet. Same thing with the rate of pay and the salary. If you're paying your managers hourly, just make sure you put hourly and $12 an hour, 13, 14, whatever you're paying your managers. All right, and then you make sure you get their times in. All these areas right here are protected. They're not for you to ruin because it's got formulas in here. So basically, the only thing you're going to be inputting in this area on this sheet, which is the hour sheet, is from PTO hours to time in. All right, so now there is another sheet we're going to look at. Let's go back to home and let's go to week 2 or week 1 labor dollars. So now it's getting interesting because now it's going to break down your dollars. It's going to show you exactly how much the employee is going to be making. So it has the hours here and the dollars here for each employee. PTO dollars. Now this sheet that you're looking at is completely protected. So anything you enter on the labor 1 hour sheet is going to populate to the labor dollar sheet week 1. So week 1 is coinciding with week 2 for those two anyway, labor versus dollars. Scroll all the way to the right, and basically it gives you a breakdown: weekly total, week to date total, weekly overtime, calculated rate. Now the calculated rate is basically designed for servers, because what happens is when they go to if they're not tipped, then the system's going to automatically assume. By the way, I didn't explain this, so let's go back to this real quick. You gotta have to go back to week 1, because that for the labor area, week 1 labor hours is key for this area up here. So make sure you put in, normally it's going to be a weekly limit at regular rate is going to be 40. It's always going to be 1.5. Minimum wage is 7.25. Your tipped employee wage is 283. And it may be different in different states, so make sure you know that information, you get that in there. This right here is daily hour limits at regular rate. There are some states, for instance, I think South or North Carolina and California, and there's a couple other states where they put a limit on how many hours a person can work before it turns into overtime daily. So if this person worked 24 hours right here, and I put 8, I'm watching this for Tuesday, 24, and I slip 8 in here because that's what my state says I have to do, then automatically it's going to change that figure, and it's going to say your daily total hours is 24, regular is 8 hours, and your total OT is 16. If I take the 8 out, watch what happens. Brings it right back to 0. So that would be 24 hours, regulate 24, 0 OT. So most of the states won't have to put anything in here. But again, we had slipped this in because there's like a few states that have a daily hour limit on regular rate. All right, you get your information button here. You go back to the information sheet. You go to your labor cost percentage sheet, point to minimum wage information, and make sure you read this information. And again, you have a scroll right here. Now, going back to home and looking at everything, your week 1 corresponds with week 1 labor. And if you go to week 2 labor, week 3 labor, to week 3 labor dollars, 4 to 4, and so on. Week 5 to 5, you got your labor cost percentages. This page is protected. As you enter your information in for like week 1 through week 5, it's going to come up daily. This will only show a week-to-date percentage once you get all your days in from Monday through Sunday. It'll show you what your week-to-date labor percentage is, because you're already looking at your daily one here anyway. You have sales per man hour, SPMH. It's going to show you daily, and at the end of the week, it's going to show you weekly. Down below, you got a management section, so you got your management labor percent, and you got your management week-to-date SPMH. All right, and then below this is going to be your daily sales. Your daily sales populates from your daily sales sheet. So again, you don't input anything. This is at view only. All right, so it's going to tell you what your daily sales are per day. So basically, it's a good report card because you know where you stand all the way from week 1 to week 5 for labor control and for your sales per man hour. All right, so I gave you some keys up here. If you want to go back to labor hours, week 3 labor hours, week 4 labor hours, week 5 labor hours, you can go back and refer back to any particular sheet that you wanted to see if there's an issue or if you're just looking for more information. Let's go back to home real quick. Labor cost information. Some really good information here on what to do and how to keep your labor costs down. Some of the issues you can be looking at is cost awareness, controlling your labor costs with improved worker productivity, labor cross-training your staff, etc. This is a lot of good information. Seasoned managers may already know this. There may be some stuff that you don't. If you have new managers on, this would be an excellent tool for your managers to read, and maybe you can get your seasoned manager to sit down with that employee and go over the system, and that way it kind of helps get everybody on the same page. All right, so let's go back to home. I believe we've got everything that we talked about. Again, go through your your tutorials here, your films introduction tutorial, calendar, phone list, which includes the business employee manager, daily sales, etc. This will tell you how to use the system. And then from here over, the actual buttons will take you to the input pages and what areas you need to be in. All right, I thank you guys for visiting us today. And again, if you have any other questions or concerns, you can reach me at workplacewizards@gmail.com or call me direct at 800-753-0657. Thanks, folks. Have a great day.